Good afternoon, Holly. Thank you very much for joining me. Coming up soon in Geneva, we have the second of our Graff capsule sales, which is called Contrast and Colour. And I thought it'd be great this afternoon to get your ideas and your opinions as a specialist in Impressionist art on an overview of the sale and to look at a few pieces and see how our disciplines cross over. Because I think a lot of the artists that you specialise in, contrast and colour is very integral to the works.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly when it comes to the Impressionists, colour is really the starting point of so much of their output. You've got the focus, the emphasis on light and how it interacts with nature, but then all of the disparate colours that involves. And obviously just on a superficial level, seeing the jewels that we've got here and how they sparkle. I think the way that, for example, Monet captured those different lights distilled through water is actually, it's sort of reminiscent of what I can see in these shimmering jewels.
It is a balance for the jeweller as an artist to define what he's going to sort of create and make. I mean, we associate rubies with a really strong reds, sapphires with the strong blues, and obviously emeralds with the strong greens. But I brought a piece today which shows the ability for a jeweller not to stick to those main pieces. The bracelet here is set purely with diamonds and sapphires. Sapphires showing every possible colour in there. You've got the yellows, the purples, the greens, the blues, and I think that shows, you know, how in many ways an artist would be able to use a different palette, blending their own colours. And I believe there were quite a few of the artists who, like Yves Klein, has a very distinctive blue, which was incredibly popular.
Yeah, absolutely. You do get artists throughout history, and I think Yves Klein is the most obvious contemporary artist who's really synonymous with his own colour, the Klein blue. But even before Yves Klein, you had Marc Chagall working with a very, very specific type of blue. I don't know if jewellers or if Mr. Graff is particularly identified with one particular colour.
I think it's often, you know, the balance of colour itself, finding the right sapphires being exactly the same tone and shade and hue is something that shows absolute perfection and dedication.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think actually another artist, Vegeta, illustrates that even more strongly. He met a girl called Lucy Badu, again in the 1920s, and he was transfixed by the colour of her skin, a sort of porcelain skin, and he was dissatisfied with the pigments, the white pigments already in existence, so he toiled at creating his own kind of white ground that specifically he felt sufficiently rendered skin.
As with jewellery and art, if you see the same scene day and night, they're completely different, you know, a complete contrast.
I think Monet is probably the best example of that, and he really was the first artist among the Impressionists to pioneer this idea of painting in series and depicting the same specific vista, but in the afternoon, in the early evening, mid-evening, late evening.
It's interesting, that contrast is fantastic because all these diamonds are cut in a modern way, so they react brilliantly to sort of modern light, but older diamonds reacted better to candlelight. Round about 1919, the technology advanced, so they would create a modern brilliant cut diamond, and this reacted better to incandescent light and the modern lighting that was happening in sort of the advancement of the 20th century.
Artists were hugely affected by developments in technology, and I think the main one was really the advent of photography, because artists were relied upon to record and render reality, and you have artists being employed in newspapers and journals to sort of draw current affairs. And the Impressionists were really the ones who embraced that advance and suddenly saw painting as a medium to render something different from just a sort of realism and to impress upon the canvas more of a feeling and a sensation and an atmosphere. I mean, I think probably one of the most interesting developments is the collapsible paint tube. So artists were able to pre-mix their pigments and paint on plein air, as the Impressionists did. There was a particular emphasis on violet, and they were accused of having this obsession with violet, but it was this newly mixed colour that they could carry around with them. Can I ask about the green earrings in particular?
Of course. I think, you know, that's a perfect example of a great sort of strength in colour. Set with emeralds and diamonds and articulated with the hoops. They're cut and made exceptionally well.
It wouldn't be an understatement to say that I think the shimmer is something that even Monet would have envied here. It's absolutely dazzling.
Thank you, Holly. It's been great. It's been very interesting to see, the colour and contrast and how they cross over in the disciplines. So thank you very much.
Thank you.